Hi, this is Randal Schwartz, host of FLOSS Weekly. This week, Jonathan Bennett joins me. We're going to be talking about XWiki, a new kind of wiki that has lots of functionality. You're not going to want to miss this, so stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is FLOSS Weekly with Randal Schwartz and Jonathan Bennett. Episode 558, recorded December 4th, 2019. XWiki. This episode of FLOSS Weekly is brought to you by Brave. Brave is the browser reimagined. Switch now to get unmatched speed and privacy and stop trackers from following you. Save battery life and earn rewards by opting into privacy-respecting ads. Brave is free and easy to switch to. Go to brave.com/twit and switch to Brave today. And by Hover. Use a domain name that truly represents you and your passion. Visit hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. It's time for FLOSS Weekly, the show about free, libre, open source software. I am your host, Randal Schwartz. Merlin at Stonehenge.com, bringing you each week the movers, the shakers, the big projects, little projects you may be using every day and not realizing it, projects you might want to play with right after the show. Today will probably be one of those. Jonathan Bennett is joining me once again. Jonathan, welcome back.
Hey, Randall, it's good to be here again.
It's been so long since we've chatted. You don't write, you don't call.
Days at least, I know.
I'm only saying that because he was on last week as well. So I was trying to fix up my paperwork, and I went, oh, Jonathan Bennett's name is already in the co-host slot. How did that work? I go, well, it's because you were the co-host. Very nice.
What can I say?
I know. So today I am once again, speaking of being in the same place at the same time, I am once again in the Tijuana kitchen set. So there's the magnets. We had the magnet game for a while back right behind me there. I have new lighting, and the new lighting I'm not particularly happy with because it sort of comes all down on my front of my face. It looks a little bad. And speaking of my face, I'm getting over the problem with my very dry face. There's not as much to see anymore, but it still affects me where I don't want to try to scratch it while I'm trying to sleep, and it's a bad thing to do. Anyway, and you're probably in the place that's just okay, right?
Yes, I'm in the flyover state here in Oklahoma.
Okay. I won't be flying over on my way home. I'm flying home tomorrow, but I'm going directly north from here, so all the way to Portland, Oregon, and then I'm going to be on the Portland, Oregon coast for a couple weeks at my condo down there, which is really fun. Anyway, so today we have a project that I know a lot about because I've been using wikis for decades now. It's been a very, very long time. I'm sure XWiki, which is what we're talking about today, by, let's see if I get his name right here. So this is Ludovic Dubost is going to be talking to us today about XWiki, which is a project of his, which is about not just a normal wiki where there's links to other pages, as you might think of, say, Wikipedia would be, but also there's some activity that can be triggered by those links, which sounds like a lot of fun, actually. The original wiki was written in Perl, and in fact, written by a friend of mine, Ward Cunningham, who, what does that sound like? I guess I'm mixing it up with Richie Cunningham. It's not the same person at all. Ward Cunningham, right. Ward is a fellow Portlander and got the name for wiki from the Wiki bus that was running around the airport terminals in Hawaii so that he could get there quickly. Wiki actually means quick in Hawaiian. So that's how it all started. And the first wiki was written in Perl, a giant, something like 40,000 line Perl program. But what a wiki basically is a human editable set of pages. So it's a website, but it's editable by people. So people can come in and add links to other pages, add links to new pages, things like that. Well, if you're familiar with Wikipedia, it's very similar. I mean, Wikipedia, of course, gets its name from wiki as well. But it's a great way to capture information and make it linkable and editable and things like that. The XWiki, I don't know how it distinguishes itself from something like Wikipedia, but we do have an expert coming in who's going to talk about that in a second. What do you know about this so far, Jonathan?
I think it's interesting. You talk about the history of wiki, and first off, has it been around that long? Oh my word! And secondly,
yes.
When you go back and you think about what Tim Berners-Lee, some of his early writing when he was first putting together this idea of the web. Wiki is really kind of the realization of what he had in mind, because he talked about pages being editable in this collaborative effort. And so it's really interesting to kind of see that come full circle. And now we're back at this place where we have a web that, on some sites at least, everybody can contribute towards. It's pretty neat. And of course, Wikipedia has changed the world, and it's a good thing, as we know, that there's more than just one project. There's more than just Wikimedia. There's these other projects like XWiki. I'm not real familiar with it. Looking forward to learning about it, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure we both have had plenty of experience with XWiki, with Wikipedia, so we can have him contrast how does that actually work compared to Wikipedia and things like that. So it'll be fun. Cool. Well, without further ado, let me then start this show by saying this episode of FLOSS Weekly is brought to you by Brave. Brave is a next-generation web browser built by a team that is focused on privacy and performance. They are pioneering a better internet with privacy by default. Brave gives you control over who has access to your online activity. It's super fast, performing up to 6 times faster than the competitors. Brave is unlike other browsers in that it gives you unmatched speed, online privacy that blocks trackers, a better user experience, and it's free. Brave is easy to use. Getting set up is quick. Users can switch browsers efficiently, and it saves your battery life and reduces data costs. It feels just like using Chrome without being tracked. It can import your bookmarks with one click. All of your favorite Chrome extensions are available, and it's available for Mac, Windows, Linux, Android, and iOS. Brave rewards you by having advertisers pay you for your attention. Opt into Brave ads, and you'll get rewarded with BAT tokens. That's basic attention tokens. This supports content creators and allows you to access premium content. Use rewards to easily tip your favorite content creators in Brave. Their goal is to help fix the web, improve privacy, and give publishers back their fair share of web revenue. Join our mission to fix the internet. You know you can trust Brave because it was co-founded by Brendan Eich and Brian Bondi. Brendan Eich was previously the co-founder of Mozilla Firefox and the creator of JavaScript. Brave includes options such as private window with Tor for those seeking advanced privacy and safety. Listeners of FLOSS Weekly can easily download Brave right now. Go to brave.com/twit and switch to Brave today. That's brave.com/TWIT. Yesterday was about big tech. Today is about us. And we thank Brave for their support of FLOSS Weekly. And now let's go ahead and bring on Ludovic. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hey, and so where are you speaking to us from?
I'm from Paris, France.
Paris, France. Okay, I have been in the airport there. I don't think I've ever left the airport. It's a great place to connect in. That's all I can say.
Yeah, technically it's not in Paris, the airport.
Yes, I know. It's a train ride away. I know. I think.
Yeah.
Did I actually leave the airport at one point? No, I've left Rome's airport, which is also a long ways away from Rome. That's about all I remember. Okay, anyway, so tell us about XWiki. We're all familiar with Wikipedia. We may also be familiar with Ward Cunningham's original project, the original wiki. How is XWiki different from those?
Okay, so the first thing is that XWiki is a wiki mostly made for organization. So we call it usually enterprise wiki. That's a first. So the goal is a bit different than the goal of Wikipedia, for example, which is a specific use of the wiki concept. And then compared to, I would say most of the wiki engines, the particularity of the XWiki engine is that it has a system for managing structure. What I mean by that is that instead of just having static pages that you would interlink together and that are editable, which is the core concept of a wiki, what you also have is the possibility to have pages that have data. So when you edit them, they look more like a form. It will allow the user to know a bit more what he has to fill in. It will also allow to have a visualization of the page that is a bit more common between pages that are about the same type of subject, and it will also allow to navigate the data with additional capabilities. And the other aspect in XWiki is that it's a programmable wiki. So we have a scripting engine built into it, and this scripting engine actually allows to modify most of XWiki's user interface and to adapt XWiki to the actual need of the user. And we believe this is really important when we're talking about knowledge applications, because the tool kind of needs to adapt to the users and to the use cases more than the other way around.
So when you say you've got a scripting language, is that in any kind of popular language, or is it something you made up?
So no, we didn't invent the language itself. We use actually multiple languages. The two main languages we used are Velocity, which is a template language from that is an Apache Software Foundation project. It's mostly practical for presenting data. We also use Groovy, which is a language for the JVM that is basically a complete language, limited to super admins for security reasons. And actually, almost any scripting language is actually usable inside XWiki. So you have a Python macro or JavaScript macro, so you could use JavaScript, Python, and other languages.
How about Perl?
The most important thing with the scripting language is actually not the language itself. The most important thing is the API that we provide, which allows to interact with the data that is inside the wiki. So basically, whatever scripting language is being used inside XWiki, you have a $XWiki variable and a $doc variable. So $doc will represent the current document, and $XWiki will represent the engine, and you can make queries to the data engine and things like that.
Well, there was already wikis out there. I mean, MediaWiki and the original Ward Cunningham wiki. God, I hope that's his name, and I'm not calling, Richie Cunningham's brother the wrong name or something. But I think I should have looked that up before the show, but I'll probably do that during my next break. So why? How is it? It seems like it's a database with a kind of an easy editable front end. How did this get started, and what problem was it trying to solve?
Wikis or XWiki?
XWiki.
When I created it, so before creating XWiki, I was a wiki user. So I was a CTO of a company that got acquired by Nielsen. So we were doing statistics of internet usage. And as a CTO in my team, we needed to do knowledge management. I was actually a user of XWiki, which is actually also got forked as FLOSS now. So this was a wiki in Perl. And as a user of wikis, I felt the real need to structure data. So, for example, when we were using wikis inside our team, we were creating pages about projects. And the main problem I had is that we would have manually to update the main page to say which are the projects that are active and which projects that are kind of finished. And by adding the structure in the data, it allowed to have these pages created automatically. So basically, we would have a macro that would show which are the running projects and which are the finished projects. And so actually, I started modifying XWiki to allow that. And so it was the first experiment of structured data inside the wiki engine that I had. XWiki had also some concepts. However, when I left that company, I thought, it really changed the way our users have shared information inside the group. Before using wikis, we really had a problem of people getting the motivation to share data. And so I believed in that type of tool very strongly, and I thought, okay, I want to launch something. So the question arrived whether I would just work with existing open source tools, XWiki, for example, or rewrite one. And for technical reasons, because I felt that XWiki was not strong technically enough, I decided to rewrite an engine.
And what did you end up writing that in?
So it was built in Java, and for kind of two reasons. The first reason was I wanted the engine to be acceptable for businesses, so that businesses would basically validate it when they consider it for the infrastructure. And the second reason was because of the scripting language that I wanted in the system. We need a way to manage the security, and actually Java gives us that possibility. So, for example, if I would want to do the same thing in PHP, I would have not the tools to limit the capability of the scripting engine. And Java gives this capability to limit the capacity of the scripting engine that we provide in the tool.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, because this is what I always see happening in every company that I've been in. They go, oh, we have data that's going to be slightly disorganized, but maybe we can put it into a wiki page and make a wiki out of it. And then it never gets updated. it's always stale information, so you don't have anything up to date in it. Even though it's trivial to update it, everybody thinks everybody else is going to update it. Have you been able to solve that problem for XWiki?
So knowledge management is always a problem when it comes to companies. It's not only a question of tool, it's a question of the group. So as a company, we're not only working on the technical aspect, we're also working a bit on the human aspect and trying to help the customer do the right thing into making people motivated by the tool. The key point so there are technical things that are important. So, for example, the data structure that we built in the system is helping making wikis better, more easily adopted by users and being updated, because the fact of having the data having a better structure and having a better navigation makes people more motivated about the result, and it makes it more easy for people to update the data. However, you cannot solve that problem only from the technical aspect. You also need to work on the human aspects to motivate people to believe in that type of tool. So what we do in this area is we try to start with a project that will have a large impact inside the company, so that people believe in the tool as providing them valuable data. Now, the thing is, managing and managing the data inside the company is not given. You have to work on it, and so the main issue is for companies to decide that it's important for them to do that investment. We try to show them that it's very valuable to do that. That you're really improving the productivity of your team if you have good data, if you have a good knowledge system.
Ludovic, you mentioned something a minute ago that caught my interest, and that's this idea of templates that can take outside data sources and pull in and automatically generate pages from it. What data sources are supported? Are we talking about like being able to pull information from Docker instances, from a backend database somewhere? What types of data sources do you support?
So when we create structured pages, indeed, with the scripting language, it's possible to pull in data. So there's actually two ways to do that. You can pull the data. You could imagine external tools that are pushing data to the structured data in XWiki. That's more the job of the outside application to push data. Template to actually use macros to show data. So this is quite open. We have some macros that pull data from Jira, for example, macros that pull data from Salesforce. And then it's kind of unlimited in the sense that you can write your own scripts. At XWiki, for example, we have an application where we display all our servers, and we can pull in data from Nagios, Cacti to show the graphs, and so we can click on a machine and we can see the graphs from Nagios or from Cacti. And we did this kind of custom on in the template of the page. So based on REST APIs, you can pull in data from almost any system.
So you guys have tried to make this flexible enough that just about anything someone could imagine they could build with XWiki. Does that include public-facing websites, more like a static page?
So yes, we do have public-facing website. There are a few. For example, there is one called vCalc, which is a database of formulas. So it's and the formulas can be actually tried it for live inside the website. We have also the encyclopedia of the history of Switzerland, and we have a bunch of public websites in France. For example, to train people from the public service from cities and region, they can find data for their training. So we do have, this is not what we do most, public-facing websites, but with the flexibility, we can match the look and feel of what's required in the public-facing website.
And so I'm curious about how this works. So let's say we have, in XWiki, we have a page set up, and then a user goes in and edits that page. Is that where that form to edit the page, is that where these scripts go, or are they only on a backend somewhere?
No, they're in the page, so you can make them in the page. So, I mean, the first step is, let's say you have just a wiki page, okay? So you make a wiki page, and inside that wiki page, you would like to show the last 3 documents that have been modified in XWiki. So what you would do is you just click macro, you say velocity macro, and then you can write your script inside that page. That's the first way of writing a script. Another way is actually writing a macro yourself. So you could develop a macro and then make that macro usable by users. So then a non-technical user can use your custom code. So let's say, for example, I want to do a macro that would show a Salesforce report. I can write a macro, and the parameter to that macro would be the ID of the Salesforce report. And then the macro would pull in automatically the Salesforce report and show it inside the wiki. A third way of doing scripts is actually, you will start by doing first an application. So let's say you want to do a database of projects. You will use a tool of us that is called App Within Minute. And with App Within Minute, you're going to create your data structure for projects. And this will be all WYSIWYG in a sense. You do drag and drop, you choose your fields. And when you're finished your application, you click yes, you click OK, and actually what the wizard will do, it will generate scripts behind the scenes. You don't realize it. And these scripts will actually be modifiable. And for example, one of these scripts will be the template of the page of a project. And then you can go modify that template to have some custom presentation in it. So to give an example with projects, suppose your project has a Jira project associated to your project. You could, inside the template, go pull in the latest Jira tasks to show them inside the template page, inside the project page.
That's really cool. That's some interesting functionality. So I normally say this question towards the end of the show, but it fits right here. With all of this functionality and kind of the flexibility this gives, I assume you guys have seen some impressive and oddball use cases where XWiki has been kind of shoved into. What's either the strangest or most impressive that you've seen?
Oh, you're taking me a bit off guard here. I have to think a bit about it. So what we do for the history of Switzerland is quite pushy. So basically, the goal of the website for the history of Switzerland is to create an encyclopedia a bit similar to Wikipedia about the history of Switzerland. However, this is written by historians, and basically, when they write one article about a page, they're going to make like 20 people work. And so what we build on top of XWiki, we've built a way for them to track the work around this document. So there's an integration with Jira where from the wiki page, it's actually possible they actually create the Jira tasks. So they say this section of this article will be done by this person, this section by this other person, and here we need the media, we need a photo talking about this subject, and it will send a task for the people getting the medias and extracting the medias from libraries that they got. And so they have all this tracking, and at the end of the process, we click a button, and when they click the button, it actually generates the final article and publishes it on the public website.
That's really interesting. So you're doing essentially management of the people working on it within the engine itself.
Yeah, you could say something like that. Yeah. Yep.
So thinking about, I mean, it sounds like you've got essentially a Turing complete scripting language inside of this wiki. That sounds like that must be a security nightmare, particularly if you if you had a situation like Wikipedia where anyone could edit. You could just about write malware inside the wiki. What does the process look like to think through all of that and make sure that one doesn't open themselves up to an attack through this?
Yeah, so first there are some there are limitations to what you can allow. So you could say that people are not allowed to script. So you could limit the scripting right to specific users. The second thing is that the scripting language actually doesn't allow, only gives you APIs that are controlled by the engine. So we don't allow you to call anything you want. The most important thing you are able to call is getting the data from the wiki. And when you're calling an API from the wiki to get data, it will check all your rights and what data you are actually allowed to see. So you will have limitations there. And then the Groovy language is only allowed for administrators. So you have something we call programmers and administrator. And in terms of security, this is kind of equivalent to give access to your server directory where you would write PHP. So if you're giving somebody administrative right, you're giving him the right to publish PHP script on your server, basically. This is a bit the equivalent right that you're giving.
So I can't let Jonathan have all the fun today, so I'm going to ask a few questions, but right after this important message, because this episode of FLOSS Weekly is brought to you by Hover. Hover is a jumping-off point for many entrepreneurs, and they want you to start your business with a domain name that truly showcases who you are. Hover has over 300 domain name extensions to choose from when building your brand online. No matter what you want to build, there's a domain name waiting for it. If you're a designer or creative professional, you can use .design instead of using a generic .com or .biz domain name. By using .design, you're telling everyone exactly what you do. Stand out and brand yourself online with the perfect domain name for you or your business. You'll find excellent technical support available to answer any questions you may have. Their support team doesn't upsell you. They only work hard to get you online. Hover has free WHOIS privacy protection, a clean and easy to navigate UX and UI, and monthly sales on popular top-level domains. It's not hard to see why Hover is a popular choice for people starting all kinds of businesses. Keeping your domain name separate from hosting gives you the flexibility to choose the right platform for your business. I am personally a Hover customer, probably for the last, 6 years since they started sponsoring FLOSS Weekly many years ago. One of the favorite domains that I have is chat2.pl. I created the file called chat2.pl, and I finally got to have a domain name that exactly points at that in the Perl repository. So it's really fun. Go to chat2.pl right now, and you'll see the file I created to go using my domain that I got from Hover. Very cool. Use a domain name that truly represents you and your passion. Visit hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. That's hover.com/TWIT for 10% off your domain extension for a full year. And we thank Hover for their support of FLOSS Weekly. And so we still have a bunch of questions, but one of the things I saw on your notes that you sent me is something about CryptPad. What the heck is CryptPad?
Yeah, so actually, CryptPad is a second project that we work on at XWiki. And it's a tool which allows real-time collaboration, but the server cannot read your content. So the history of CryptPad is that we have been working on XWiki's research, and we wanted real-time editing inside XWiki. And as we were working on the algorithm on real-time editing, at some point, our developer allowed an algorithm where the server wouldn't be actually needed in the participation in managing the synchronization of the real-time changes from multiple users. And this actually was kind of a breakthrough because in most cases, most algorithms are managed by the server. So if you're using Google Docs, for example, it's actually the server that would do most of the work of synchronizing users. And when we realized that we could actually not use the server, we realized that it would be possible to use encryption, and that we could make people collaborate on two different computers without the server having any knowledge of what's going on. And this created the idea of building a solution that would be secure and privacy friendly, and allow to collaborate. And so CryptPad has been developed quite a lot. It's now a full drive. You can manage your files. You can edit documents of multiple types. So WYSIWYG, text, Kanban, all this without the server having no knowledge of what you're doing.
So how does the communication happen? There's clearly some sort of pathway that the data is going from one client machine to another, right?
Yes. So when you connect on CryptPad, you have two cases. Either you're a newbie, you're a first-time user, and somebody will have sent you a URL. It is recommended that this URL is sent to you on a secure channel because this URL will contain the key to the document, so the encryption key. So this is actually your password to the document. And so in this case, you will load that URL in your browser, and everything that is after the hash in the URL will not be sent to the server, will be kept locally. The server will load some JavaScript, and that JavaScript will read the key, also the ID of the document, and connect to the server to retrieve encrypted data, and then decrypt it and construct the document that you're supposed to see. So you will get a document where the current document is shown, then you can make changes, and when you make changes, a patch will be created. This patch will be encrypted and sent to the server. Other users that are participating in the document will receive the encrypted patches and will apply them on their document. If the patches are concurrent and there is some conflict happening, then the algorithm, the real-time editing algorithm, will work into reconciling these patches and end up with a second use case is you actually have an account on CryptPad, and in that case, you log in, you have a username and password. This will stay on your computer, generate a key, and this key will represent the document on our server, which contains your whole configuration of how you're using CryptPad. Like, it will contain the list of pads that you have, the users that you're in contact with, and so on and so on. You will load that document, and then it will be your drive that shows up on your screen, and then you can open other pads, send documents to other people, and things. It's a bit complicated in 2 minutes to go through all the algorithms that are inside CryptPad, because what we're trying to do in the end is we're trying to rebuild tools with the constraint that the server should not know anything, and we find ways to do that using this document structure that is encrypted.
And I've just got whispered in my ear that we actually did a show all about CryptPad. I wondered why it sounded familiar. Episode 532. So twit.tv/floss 532. If you want to get more details on CryptPad, we'll stop that talk for now. But thanks for sort of reminding us what it was about. Yes, Jonathan, thank you for the search. That was handy there. And that's one of our shows. We had Michael Tunnell on. It was nice. He hasn't been on for a while. And I'm just reminded of the possible question: does CryptPad integrate into XWiki?
Yeah, so we don't integrate CryptPad itself in XWiki. We're sharing the real-time editing algorithm, and so there is an extension in XWiki that allows real-time editing, and we're using the same algorithm that we build into CryptPad. And so you can edit the document, and then it's going to be automatically saved in XWiki and you're seeing what the other person is typing.
And so as I've been reading the intro to this for the last few weeks, it's been talking about XWiki in sort of two entirely different modes, where one of them sort of like a traditional MediaWiki sort of capturing of information, and the other is sort of a more advanced, tools attached to a wiki page. Is it really two different modes, or I've just been reading that weird?
No, so CryptPad is not a wiki today. We're not building the knowledge management aspect into CryptPad. We're more like allowing people to edit documents simultaneously. We're allowing a drive and to manage your files securely. But we're not building the knowledge management aspect, because that's not necessarily what our users are currently asking for. What our users are currently asking for is to secure their data. Now, it's not said that we will not do a wiki inside CryptPad, and it's not far away. Basically, it's mainly a UI, some UI work, and allowing to link one document to another, which is already possible. You can just paste the URL in a CryptPad document to another document. So we will probably do it in the future, but it's not a priority in a sense that we're not targeting exactly the same market. We're more trying to target what Google Drive is doing and providing a privacy-friendly Google Drive to users.
I think I was asking about XWiki and not CryptPad. Does that same answer apply to XWiki?
Sorry, so maybe you can repeat the question, then I might have not understood it. So
the question, or the blurb that I've been reading in promoting the show was: first generation wikis are used to collaborate on content. Second generation wikis, aka the structured and application wikis, can be used to create collaborative web applications by using the wiki paradigm and editing wiki pages. XWiki can be used either as a first generation wiki or a second generation one. And I was curious, is that like two different modes you enable on the thing, or is it always true you can do both?
Okay, I really didn't understand the question.
Sorry.
So it's fine. It's my problem. So actually, any page can be either a standard wiki page or a structured wiki page. And we have both modes together in a sense that when you create a page, you can choose a template that is structured or a template that is completely free form. And even if you're choosing a template that is one of the fields will be the free-form page. So you will still use the standard wiki concept there. And pages will have the same status inside the wiki engine, whether it is structured or non-structured, and will have the whole capability collaboration on them. So like you can comment them, you can add rights to them, you can view their history, do diffs on them. So they will have the same status in the tool. It will just be the way of editing that will change.
I want to dig into this. It's funny. You misunderstood and answered the wrong question, and I said in the back chat, I'm like, but the answer is really interesting. This is good stuff. Do you see a potential future where these two projects actually merge and are a single project that provides both functions, where kind of this wiki is always encrypted by default and the encrypted collaboration is just handled by the wiki? Is it possible that these two things will come together?
So the tools themselves cannot really merge because one is built with the encryption in mind, and you cannot really transform a tool where encryption hasn't been thought right at the beginning to a tool that becomes encrypted. So Google cannot change their system to become encrypted, basically. It's very hard. You kind of have to rewrite everything. So the tools themselves won't merge. However, what's definitely possible is that we decide at some point that the structure capability would be interesting inside CryptPad. Well, it's not a big priority for us. I will explain why. Is that, well, we tend to position XWiki as a tool for open data, and we tend to position CryptPad as a tool for protecting your personal or small group data. So there is one tool where the objective is to spread information, and basically knowledge is good to spread. And there is this other tool where it's not about knowledge, it's more about your personal data. So they kind of address two different problems and set of data, and they don't necessarily have the same needs there.
Sure. I wanted to kind of dive off in a different direction. So obviously we're mainly talking about XWiki. Is this a business venture for you guys, or is it just a labor of love? And if it's a business venture, how do you make money with this?
Yeah, so XWiki was created as a business venture right away. So I left my previous job, and the objective was to be able to make a living building something. So initially, when I created XWiki, I didn't really think about open source that much. I had the feeling open source was something big and important. I had seen the rise of Red Hat, the rise of Linux. I've seen JBoss that had been developed and with success. And so I thought, okay, there is something interesting in the open source model. A second aspect with open source was wikis were created as open source, and it felt very natural to make XWiki as an open source tool because I had learned this from open source. So it felt natural to do that. Now, when I built the company XWiki, I had to face okay, are you giving just a tool for free, or how do you make a living of it? And as time came, I learned about the business aspects of open source on one side, and I learned also about why open source was actually important. In the end, I wasn't a free software lover in a sense when I started XWiki. I just more learned after by confronting companies with the open source model and having to defend it, because I believe in the first years when I started XWiki, you kind of had to defend it and answer the typical type of question is, how do you make money? Why is it free? And I had to explain, well, the business aspect of it, and then why it's useful and important to make tools that are open source. So I believe that open source is important because it is more sustainable in a sense that other people can build on top around the software. And there are technical aspects and also long-term aspects that are important. And there is also the fact of allowing the software to be spread around the world, which I find really, really important and interesting. And so in the end, we built the fact that open source was a key thing in our company and found ways to live from it.
And so what does that look like? How do you guys actually make money? You give away the software. What does your continual funding look like?
Yeah, so just to XWiki is a company that makes about 2 million euros revenue. So in dollars, that's slightly more, but not much, like 2.2 or 2.4. We mostly we sell services on top of XWiki. So implementation of projects on top of the engine and configuration of the engine. We also sell support, so companies that want to maintain the software and be able to call us if they have any issues with it. We also sell a cloud service, so you can go to our website and get an instance running XWiki in a couple minutes and then pay for it online. We do training, and so kind of everything that a software provider does in terms of professional services, but we just don't sell the software. We only sell the support and the service around it. Now, when it comes to CryptPad, the tool has less capability of customization. It's not the principle of the tool to be customized. It's really a tool to be used as is. And so we're going after a different strategy, and that strategy is more about subscriptions to the cloud version. So anybody can install CryptPad, but we run CryptPad FR, and on CryptPad FR you can use it for free. You have 50 megabytes of data that you can put on CryptPad FR, and then you need to pay for a subscription. To get more space and being able to share data with other people. It's a different way of doing business, really cloud-based, basically running a cloud service. Open source is here more a way also to show that you can look at the code and see how it works. And so it's a way to spread also the knowledge. We also have in mind at some point to make CryptPad a decentralized tool. So basically like Mastodon, where you have different instances and can connect together. We're seeing CryptPad as a tool where company A can run a CryptPad, company B can run a CryptPad, and you can exchange data from company A to company B.
And so it's impressive that you're doing €2 million a year. I'm sure when you first started, well, first off, how long has XWiki been around? How old of a project are we talking about?
It's 15 years old now.
Oh, wow. Okay. So 15 years ago, when you first had this idea and you started the company, where did the funding come from to even start writing it? Did you take venture capital or pay for it out of pocket? No. Eat ramen for a while? How did that work?
No, well, there is one thing in France. We have the chance to have a good unemployment system. So when I left my previous job, I had a negotiation with my employer, and this basically made me eligible for unemployment money. And the system allows you, if you want to create a company, to actually use the unemployment money as a way to bootstrap your new company. And so I was able to fund, I think, something like 20 months of work from that. Then I also had a bit of money from the previous company that I made, and this gave me one more year, and basically it allowed me for 3 years to really fund the development. It takes time to build good software that people would be ready to work with, even when it's free, and so it employee with the first revenue that the company was starting to do. And then as it came, we continue to reinvest the money that we would make from the first customers. We also put a bit of money. So me and 12 other employees have put a bit of money when the company got a bit bigger to help it have enough funding to continue. Actually, one of the things that, when you run a company, one of the things that actually is the most costly is managing growth. You start needing money just for cash, and so we put a bit of money so that we would have enough cash to be able to pay the salaries before the clients would pay, and then the revenue grew progressively, and we've been able to sustain the company.
That's an interesting strategy. I don't think we've actually had that by anybody on the show before that used government grants, I guess, to fund their initial startup of their company. So that's clever, I guess.
Another aspect is also when we got a bit bigger, we also applied for research grants. And in Europe, that's also something that's quite interesting for tech companies, is that you can apply for research grants, and this also provided significant funding for the R&D. And lately on CryptPad, we've been able to use a fund managed by an organization called NLNet. These are European funds that they're redistributing for open source projects. So since we are on an open source and a FLOSS podcast, I would encourage people to go look at these funding for open source software that Europe is providing, and to apply for them.
Cool. And I have to ask, because I thought of this earlier and I haven't had a chance to ask it yet. Did your Swiss wiki have any holes?
I hope not.
Had to ask that. And also from the chat room, again, we always get this question every week because it's sort of a challenge now to try to figure out where to mix it in. Does XWiki support blockchain yet?
No.
Okay.
The only thing I could say is that CryptPad has a bit of blockchain technology in it. The algorithm that allows the synchronization without the server borrows from the blockchain.
Interesting. Cool. And we're almost out of time, so I got to make these last couple questions pretty quick. What's your favorite scripting language?
Oh, JavaScript.
Oh, really? Cool. All right. And what's your favorite text editor?
My favorite text editor today would be CryptPad.
Oh, you can actually edit right there. That's cool. That's very nice, I guess. Well, yeah, use your own product. That makes a lot of sense. And also, we've gone a long ways, and we covered a lot of different topics today. But is there anything we left out that you want to make sure our audience is aware of before we have to let you go?
No, I think it was pretty complete. We got to present what we did. That's pretty nice.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, scroll. Ludovic, it was really nice having you on the show and talking about XWiki and fun stuff like that, and a little bit more about CryptPad after we did a show on that entirely, which I had forgotten entirely. I was on that show too, and I should have remembered that. Oh well. So thank you for coming on the show and talking to us about XWiki.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. That was Ludovic Dubost, who was talking to us about XWiki. What do you think there, Jonathan?
So it's interesting. There's some unique flexibility here, I think, to be able to do some of the things that, in the past you had to dive down and either write PHP scripts on the bare metal or Perl scripts on the bare metal to be able to pull data from this source and that source. And when you have that ability, the sky's the limit. You could make your web application do whatever you want it to, but you have to have access to kind of like SSH or FTP access to the machine. And so what this does, it's interesting. It lets you write some of that functionality right inside the wiki, and lets you assign roles and give people different permissions. And it sounds like you could do almost, if not the same kind of flexibility. So they talked about being able to pull data from cacti, which people are probably familiar with cacti, but it's one of the ways that you can monitor using the simple network management protocol. So you pull things like temperature and disk usage and all this stuff into cacti, and then you can pull out of cacti into your wiki, which is just, that's kind of incredible. So you can write your own front-end dashboard that pulls data from all these different places and presents it to you. That's cool. That sounds almost like a killer feature to me. I will have to look into XWiki some more because of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I also see this again as a sort of a blurring the lines between, are you a programmer or are you a scripter or are you just editing text? Because we can see that all this happens in XWiki and in some senses ScriptPad as well. So there's all this blurring of all these different features, all these different domains where it's hard to say, are you a programmer? Because if you're writing scripts in, say, JavaScript or say jQuery, things like that, if you're writing stuff like that, is that going to be? Are you have you then crossed the realm into being a programmer, or does the term even mean anything anymore? Kind of crazy that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not going to touch that because of the direction my brain just went. I'll get myself in trouble. But that is an interesting question. Just say that.
It's one of the things that I think what became interesting when the Logo programming language came out, the turtle maneuvering language, and then we had physical turtles that would run around according to the program you wrote. But then they could do the same thing virtually on their screen. So there wasn't really a real physical turtle. It was a picture of a turtle with a direction and a position it can move to and things like that. And it got a lot of beginning, and again, I'm going to have to call them programmers, because they're writing algorithms, they're writing sequences of steps for a dot on the screen to follow. And it made it really interesting to try to work out more and more complicated things that way. And then when Squeak came out, and what's the thing that was derived from Squeak? I'm not going to remember. I'll remember probably right after the show is over. But Squeak was the Smalltalk language. And then they had a Scratch. There it is, Scratch. It's even before the end of the show. That's nice. So Scratch was a great utility that would let kids program sequences of steps and animate things on screen. And then they wrote Scratch version 2 in Java, which really upset me because it had originally been in Smalltalk. And you could actually break into the Smalltalk by typing the right command, which was sort of fun. And it was part of the one laptop per child thing, and we're running way over, aren't we? Okay, I guess I better just stop talking. Let me talk about who's going to come up. That'll probably be a good thing for me to do. So coming up next week is Yugabyte, which is a distributed SQL, high performance, global replication, internet scale. After that is Rollisteam, which is a virtual tabletop software. That should be fun. Titan makes it easy to run your favorite database in a Docker container. Kong is coming back on the show, which makes next generation API platforms for multi-cloud and hybrid organizations. The Apprentice program, which gets more women into tech, making it easier for them to cross that barrier that seems to be there. Open Mainframe is basically open source software for mainframes, for all those that have mainframes sitting around that are doing nothing. And just added last week is Weaviate, which is an open source knowledge graph, which is sort of like GraphQL, RESTful API based knowledge graph with a built-in semantic model called the contextuary. Boy, that's going to be a buzzword-heavy show. If you go to twit.tv/floss, that's the homepage for this show. And if you have any suggestions that aren't on that list right now, it means we're probably not working on it. So be sure to tell us about it by having the project leader or community coordinator email me, Merlin@stonehenge.com. We have a live stream at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays. We took a number of questions from there today, especially with the one about, I always saw the one about blockchain now. There's a lot, and you can follow us at FLOSS Weekly on Twitter. You can follow me at Merlin, MERLYN on Twitter. You can also join us at the forum, twit.community. There's a special thread there, special channel there, specifically for FLOSS Weekly. And as soon as a new show goes out, a new article gets posted, so you can talk to me there if you want. We will not do a show on either Christmas or New Year's. Both of those are on Wednesdays this year, which means I get 2 weeks off in a row. Yay, 2 weeks in a row. I have nothing particularly to plug right now. I'm going to be in Seaside. If you're on the Oregon coast, I'm going to be in Seaside the next couple of weeks, starting Monday. So if you want to tweet me, we can probably get together and hang out for a bit. Anything you want to plug there, Jonathan?
You can follow me on Twitter at JP_Bennett. And once again, I'll mention the security column over at Hackaday runs every Friday, except this past Friday, because of Thanksgiving holidays here in the States, we ended up bumping it and it ran Saturday. But you can still go there and check it out. Every week, Friday, we do a roundup of the security news and occasionally break something there as, I find something real interesting that nobody else has covered. So check it out.
Cool. Well, Jonathan, thanks once again for joining me now 2 weeks in a row. I appreciate it when you were able to take the slightly smaller than big chair. I have the big chair. You have the next to. Well, you probably have a bigger chair today than I have right now.
I think so.
That's all. All righty. Anyway, so thanks once again for joining me, and we'll see you all again next week on FLOSS Weekly.